Okay, we are now going to attempt to undertake something really silly. First and foremost, one of the things I really hate to do when I'm painting is I hate using the water-based acrylic paints. I like brushing with them. I use them all for all kinds of things, but airbrushing them has always just proven to be a real nightmare. And it seems that the reason I have so much problem airbrushing these water-based acrylics is getting the proper thinner and getting the proper thinner proportions. I think if you can nail that, if you had just the right thinner and just the right mix of paint to thinner, then it would go really, really well. For me, it has never, ever gone really, really well. Now, I saw a YouTube video, and certainly you would never find inaccurate information in a YouTube video, but this person swore by using windshield washer fluid for his airbrush thinner. And I thought, nothing ventured, nothing gained, let's give it a try. Now, while I've always preferred using lacquer paints in my airbrush, as you can see, we have tons of acrylic around the shop here in a million different colors because, well, it's affordable, it's readily available, and for brush painting things and weathering and for a lot of purposes, it's great. I even have my higher quality acrylics down here in the drawer with the lacquer paint. I need to organize my drawer. Anyway, I keep my lacquers down here and my higher quality acrylics in this drawer as well. Now, as I've mentioned in the past, the airbrush that I use is the Badger 150. It's an adequate paintbrush. It's not one of the really high-end paintbrushes, but it's always worked for me, and I've been using it for somewhere in the neighborhood of a million years. So I just continue to use the Badger 150. Now, the brush I have hanging here in the paint booth is one that I only use with lacquer paints. I don't have a quick disconnect here, and so in order to switch out to my other brush, I just have to make sure the air is shut off and then unscrew the connection here. But I have two different airbrushes, one that I use exclusively with the lacquers, and then one that I use exclusively with water-based acrylics. The reason for that is I'll use lacquer thinner for cleaning up my lacquer brush, and boy, if you get any of these solvent-based thinners or anything anywhere near your water-based acrylics, they plug up the gun, it just turns to a big mess. So my solution has been two different airbrushes. This is the one I use with my water-based acrylics. It's a slightly more modern version, and therefore I can tell them apart. So I'm just going to run a little water through here just to double check and make sure nothing's plugged up and everything is flowing just fine. Okay, I'm going to start with some of this golden acrylic paint, brand name Golden. I really like this paint. It's really nice paint. Should airbrush really well, although, like I say, I've had some bad luck with all of these things when I try to airbrush them. But I'm just going to squeeze a little bit into a bottle here. You can see it's fairly thick, and I like to thin this about 1:1, and I'm never sure what the ratio should be, and therein lies part of the problem. Now here's the thinner I've been using, Airbrush Colors by US Art Supply. And I'm trying to hit this about 50-50, and then to test it, I kind of blend this together as best I can, and then bring a little bit up onto the side of the bottle. This is a slick test for testing your thinning. If it flows easily up onto the glass and yet covers the glass completely, then you should be about where you want to be, I hope. So let's get some of this into the airbrush and see just what we've got. Right now it's feeling, as I'm putting it in here, that I've messed up and it looks too thin to me. Right, it looks very thin. Well, we'll know in a second if this is a complete disaster, then I've over thinned it, and right now I think I have. So I've put some Tamiya primer on some spoons to use as a test here, and let's go ahead and shoot some of this on one of these spoons. And right straight away I can see a significant problem, again because I don't know what I'm doing with these acrylic paints. I can't exactly identify the problem, but it's splattery and it's already forming pinholes. And this is why I hate to paint. That is a complete and utter disaster. And the more significant issue is I don't know why it's gone wrong. Had I done this with my lacquer-based paints, it would have gone on smoothly, and I'd have been able to put this on in a nice thin coat. Instead, it's wanting to go on way too heavy, and immediately it starts to form these little pinholes. The lacquer paint would have dried very, very rapidly, and it would have worked in spite of the fact that it's overly thinned. But if you don't get the mixture just right with these water-based acrylics, you end up with problems like this. So let's try again. This time I'm running about 50% airbrush thinner, and it's sticking to the glass much, much better. And I think I've got something here that may actually work. Let's give it a shot. Fortunately, I made up a whole bunch of spoons because I knew we were going to be testing a lot of different things here. Now, if I'd been shooting lacquer, this is about how thick I would have put on the first coat. But it also would have gone on very smoothly instead of looking all sort of splattery like the acrylic has here. But, and maybe I should have let this dry before proceeding. I'm not sure. Well, I'm still not happy with the way it's going on, but I'm never happy with the way water-based acrylics go on. They have to be on the surface for a short period of time, and in theory they should level, which is to say they should smooth out after they're on the surface for half a minute or so. That is still a complete disaster, but you can see that it is leveling a bit. If I put this on a model, I'd be really unhappy. I mean, really, really unhappy. Okay, now let's try what we came to try in the first place, and that's windshield washer fluid. So I've put a little more of this golden acrylic into a jar, and I'm going to thin about 50-50 again, going back to that mixture. And let's see just what we've got. As I bring it up on the glass here, it actually seems to be decent. If I were more experienced with this stuff, and if I found the exact right proportions for each paint, I'd tattoo that on my arm or something so that I would know. But right now that seems to be about right. So let's go ahead and shoot some onto a spoon and see just what the heck we've got here. And well, right now that's looking much, much better, isn't it? Now this paint should gloss off, which is to say it's not a real high gloss paint. It's not a flat paint, but it does have kind of a satin finish to it when it's dry. It's still somewhat glossy, but it will gloss off just a little as it sets up here. It won't stay this shiny, but it's got some little imperfections, like some little lumps in the paint or something, and I've heard the best way to solve this problem is by filtering the paint. So I've ordered some little stainless steel filters for filtering that. Let's try again, this time with just a hint more thinner, and see what we get. It's flowing really well again, looking really good, just like the other spoon. But notice those little pinprick holes that we were seeing before with the other thinner. Now we're starting to see those again. And more of those little lumps in there, but mostly the little pinprick holes. So those seem to be associated with having too much thinner. Okay, let's try the same thing, only this time we're going to be using a $1 bottle from Walmart of these craft paints. We've had really good luck with these. They're actually high quality paints, they just don't cost very much. And I'm going to go back to the Art Supplies, US Art Supplies thinner, and let's see how that behaves with the cheaper, let's just say more affordable paint from Walmart. And once again, not looking good. Looking better than before, not the little pinprick holes so much that we were seeing with the golden paint, but you know, and it's starting to level. It's actually, this actually might be okay. I wouldn't call it great by any stretch of the imagination, but for certain applications and stuff, I'd be okay with that. If I painted a car that way, I'd be really upset. Okay, let's try the craft paint now with windshield washer fluid. And I actually kind of like how that's going on. Again, I probably should have slowed down here and let that first very light coat dry and then proceed. But I'm just kind of testing things and trying to figure things out here. But the windshield washer fluid is actually, it's flowed on there better than with the actual airbrush thinner that I've been using. So go figure. So here again, let's go again, this time with just a hint more thinner, and see if that's better or worse, if we're above or below where we want to be with the thinner mixture. And that's not quite as good. So I think these little pin holes are somehow associated with having too much thinner. So other than the fact that I've put this on way too heavy for a single coat, that isn't too bad. The previous spoon was better. So let's give these things a little time to dry and see what all of the various spoons look like once the paint is set up. Unlike the lacquers, these are taking quite a bit of time to dry. Again, I'm not sure why, because I'm just not familiar with the paint. I think in large part because I've put such heavy coats on here. So here's how the two spoons with the craft paint and the windshield washer fluid for thinner turned out, and actually I think that's the best surface of everything I tested today. The problems that jump out at me are, first and foremost, the coat is just on here a little too heavy, should have been put on in thinner coats, and then there's little chunks of paint caught in there, imperfections from the paint, I assume, and I think that would be solved by straining this. So I've ordered a couple of little stainless steel strainers, which I think will solve that problem. Here's the golden brand paint thinned with windshield washer fluid, and I think that actually turned out reasonably good. It turned out better than the one I did with actual paint thinner. Here's craft paint with the US Art Supply thinner. Not too bad, but rather granular surface. Might have come out better if I could have nailed the proportion of thinner a little better. Here's the exact same setup, only with a little more thinner, and you can see now I'm getting all these little pinholes and imperfections, so that's a complete disaster. And actually, for complete disaster, there's this one. This was thinned with a little more thinner, probably 1.5 parts thinner to 1 part paint, to try to see if I could get this surface to smooth out, and instead it just generates tremendous pinholes. But the best success for the day was the lower spoon here, which is craft paint thinned with about 50% windshield washer fluid. And that came out pretty good, other than the fact it's got some little chunks of paint in it and the surface is still a little bit granular for my taste. I think with a proper amount of messing around, this could actually work. Try to find thinner coats from the airbrush and so on, but that actually is close to a success right there. Okay, let's go ahead and clean up the airbrush now. I've heard that the windshield washer fluid also makes a great fluid for cleaning up your airbrush. One of the great things about working with these water-based acrylics is you can start by doing what I've done here, and that's just run the airbrush into the other room and stick it under the sink. And that'll really knock the paint out of the cup here and off the outside of the brush, and especially off the tip, which is such a difficult thing to clean when you're using lacquers. It's always difficult to get up into that tip and clean it. But I'm not taking the airbrush apart in there, I'm just running it under the sink. So now I need to run some fluid through the airbrush to try to get rid of whatever paint residue is up inside the needle mechanism here. So I'm just running some windshield washer fluid through here to see how much of that paint that's along the needle and up in the paint channels inside here are being removed by the windshield washer fluid. I've got an actual airbrush cleaner for acrylics here, but I'm just testing the windshield washer fluid against that to see how it compares. Again, it was mostly a clean brush to start with here because I ran it under the sink in the other room, and but that didn't get the paint up out of the channels up inside here. The only way you can get paint out from the interior there is to just run something through. So let's go ahead and pull the needle out and see if there's any paint residue on the needle. By way of a hint here, when you're taking your needle out, we all, generally speaking, want to pull it out from the back like this. But if you know you've got paint residue up in there, or even if you suspect that, drawing the needle backwards through the gun here is going to pull all that paint residue down into the trigger mechanism. So in that case, it's better to pull the tip off the front and pull the needle out forward through the front of the gun. But as I suspect everything's nice and clean in here, and for the most part it is. If you look closely, just the slightest amount of paint residue still here. And that would mean that there's a tiny bit still up inside the seat for the needle as well. But for the most part, I'd have to say it's really cleaned out. So I think this has worked pretty much as well as my airbrush cleaner that I use with the water-based acrylic paints. Perhaps that still works slightly better than this. I don't know. It's close. But this actually did a really good job. Let's keep in mind that there's kind of two different ways or reasons for cleaning out the airbrush. One is because you're done for the day and you really want to thoroughly clean it before putting it away, and take the various parts out and run everything under the sink and really clean everything up. Or you're just trying to change colors and you just want to get the paint residue that's up in there so you don't get cross-contamination. In that case, you just kind of want to clean out your color cup and run some cleaner through there and then add your next color. So actually, I'm going to give windshield washer fluid 9 out of 10. It's maybe not perfect, but it's darn close to it. For what it's worth, most of the big companies like Vallejo are now offering their paints pre-mixed for airbrush. So they've got the thinner at the exact right proportions. You just use a little dropper bottle and squeeze it into the color cup and away you go. And as that sounds pretty idiot-proof, I think that's what I need to be doing. For most things, I still prefer lacquer. I've just been using it forever and I just love it. But for a lot of different weathering techniques, and especially for painting figures, I won't use anything other than these water-based acrylics. But when it comes to airbrushing it, I need something that's a bit more idiot-proof, I think. Well, anyway, if you're not a subscriber to the channel, please subscribe and follow along what we're doing here. And the easy way to subscribe is clicking on the upcoming blue button. Zoink! Right there, the blue button. Well, we're not sure how you found this video on the internet. We hope you didn't find it boring. And Karen and I will see you here on Sunday. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.